Our partners at BetOnline continue to be your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, all the latest fighting news, and this season's NFL. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV to get the bonus and get into action. Bet online where the game starts. Hello, hello, hello. It's Private Talk Podcast with Alexis, Texas, and we are back season 5. And today, Private Talk, we have Mia on the couch.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, hello and welcome. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Me
I've
too.
been, searching the internet. Who should I speak to? And your name has been popping up quite a lot. And you were captivating. I feel like you're a beautiful lady who
Thank you.
you just exude confidence and, your personality shows through your social media. So it's like I had to come and sit down with you, find out what all this is all about, your rich husband spiels, how, personal you are with like your female fans, giving them
Yeah.
advice and all about it. Get to know you a little bit better.
Well, absolutely. I just want to say, like, never in my life did I think that I would be on the same couch as Alexis, Texas, and I'm fucking
Ooh.
stoked. I'm
That means
blushing a
you've watched
little.
my porn before.
I mean, who hasn't,
I mean, you
right?
said you lived in Miami. I'm quite popular in Miami.
I would say so.
My big booty definitely ran the streets of South Beach many times for Bang
The
Bros.
beauty standard. The beauty standard.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about that. So when you got the DM and me asking you, were you like, oh my God, is this real?
No,
Is
I
this
was
like
like,
kind of the thing or
Alexis,
like,
Texas, like, I know her.
I mean, I am verified. So I'm verified. So sometimes you just never know. Cause even like me sometimes working with other people like yourself, it's like sometimes you don't know, is it this a fake page or whatever? And you can kind of see once you see like what your posting styles are. But at first, I mean, I didn't know who I was, but I'm grateful that you have.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely am familiar with like a lot of sex workers
Okay.
because, especially like with my type of content and stuff, a lot of like sugar baby humor and stuff.
Mhm.
I like cool with strippers, cool with porn actresses, all of that stuff. So your name was definitely familiar, but from just you are an icon in the industry.
Shit up.
Your name rings a bell to literally everyone, even if they don't want to admit it. I
Heard
literally mentioned it to my boyfriend. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a podcast with Alexis Texas." He's like, "No way, get a selfie." I'm sick. It was
a
dope.
belfie or a selfie? Those are really popular. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about that. You said your content is, super sex worker friendly in a sense.
Yeah,
You
of
said it's like
course.
it's, sugar baby talk. How did you get into that type of content? Is it something that you are a real life sugar baby? Did you just like the whole lifestyle and like what is like how did that kind of fall into play where that's your content and how you
Yeah.
became so viral?
So, actually, what started happening was when I was 18, I was living by myself in Miami. My family were like they were in Miami, but they were very strict on me always. So the second that I had just enough money to get an apartment and just move out, I did because I was just wanting to
So you
experience
went
life
to high school, like you went to junior high, like you grew up like in
in
Miami.
Miami, but
Okay.
I never did shit. My
Okay.
parents are Latino, like immigrants, like don't fuck around,
But
go to
being in
school.
Miami, like, everyone you think about it, you see what's on the movies. If you've ever been, it's like,
Yeah,
is it so as explicit as it is? Or
yeah.
were you completely like shy, like shut or not shunned, but like kept away from anything like that? Like the bikini thongs, people walking out and very like, just they don't give a fuck attitude, being sheltered.
Right.
Were you around any of that? Or did you just kind of always have that burning inside you?
I had seen it because, my parents didn't lock me in a basement. Like I had seen it, like I was familiar with the culture, but for the longest time, I was not able to partake or even explore. Like I never even went to parties in high school.
Okay.
I was so focused on getting out of the house so I could just kind of live life that I graduated high school early, like at 16. I took so many classes, got out of there, started working from there to save up to have an apartment. So when I was 18, I could move out.
Okay.
So now I'm 18. I had just moved out. And I had gotten a DM from someone who had just continuously been mentioning, like, trying to like get me to like meet up or whatever. And it was a very obscure account. But from what I could see, it looked like they lived a very fun life because there was yachts, there was clubs, there was
But you
all of
couldn't
this
really,
stuff.
like, see, like, who the person is, like, it was very luxury lifestyle, like, it could be something like
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely very obscure. And I was just feeling like I had like a couple of drinks. I was the only person in my office that day because I had to go in for some filing. And I was like, let me just respond to this person and see like what they want. So they sent me a message like, "Hey, like let's hang out, let's do this, let's do whatever. Can I take you to dinner?" Like, constantly, like a constant barrage of just trying to get me to hang out. One day I say, "Yeah," and he's like, "Where are you right now?" And I was like, "I'm in the office, but I'm just here like on my own free will, just kind of filing some stuff so I'm like organized for next week." And then he goes, "I'll pick you up right now and take you to lunch. We can go somewhere nearby." Cool. I'm literally just turned 18. I've never had like a relationship
And
with
this
like
is
an adult.
still the account that's
Yeah,
obscure.
I
You
have
have
no
no
idea.
idea. You
It's
don't
so
know who you're
stupid.
walking into, nothing. You're
So
just,
stupid.
and at the time too, let's, set the story. I guess a picture is like, were you, you were completely single. You weren't seeing anybody.
No,
You were just
no, no.
young, dumb, and who knows if you were full of cum.
I wasn't getting any. Let's just say that.
Okay. So
I
you were full of it. You just
yeah,
didn't know what was going on. So you were
full of
curious.
dreams.
You were like, someone's telling you all these things, which it sounds nice. You're like, fuck it. What do I have to lose?
Yeah, I didn't know what danger was. I hadn't gone into true
So
crime.
you, my girl. So, okay. So you go downstairs or you go out of your office and
Yeah.
what do you walk into?
Um, so some like this like Russian guy like pulls up in like a G-Wagon, nice watch,
Are
whatever.
you scared at any point at this
No.
point? Are you just like, whatever?
It's
Because I
like he's
guess,
cute.
okay. All right.
I like he was like a little chubby and I like chubby men.
Okay.
A little chubby, got a nice watch, got a nice car, and like he seemed like an asshole, like off the bat. I was like, oh perfect.
Sold.
Sold, sign me up. So yeah, nothing. I went to lunch with this guy and he was kind of an asshole, but I kind of liked it because it was like fun and mysterious and I had no idea who he was. He was dressing himself to like be like this like obscure, pardon to like be redundant and reuse the word, but an obscure like heir to something that I had no idea, whatever. And I
And
was
you're
like,
not asking any questions because you
I
don't
don't
care.
give a fuck. I'm like, you're paying for dinner, you're paying for lunch. Okay, sick. I'll just have another one. Thanks.
Can I get to no box, please? I'm hungry.
I was like eating smart ones. Like that's how like little money I had. Like, and I was just like literally just like stuffing my face because I'm like, this is the first real meal I've had in the longest time.
Okay.
I didn't give a fuck if we had a conversation or not. I'm eating. Like
Get it,
literally.
girl.
So nothing. And then I kind of just start like this like relationship with him where he's always like trying to like bring me places, take me out to a club, a
Is
restaurant.
any of it sexual at this point? Or is he
Yeah.
trying to like be very handsy? Like, is it like
No.
the whole like Mr. Gray like scenario where it's like kind of those things? Or is it like, because some people, there's companionship. Obviously he met you. It's just like an Instagram thing,
Yeah.
So it's like he has no clue what you're doing. He
Yeah.
didn't even know your age. I'm pretty sure he didn't ask.
No,
You know
he
what I
did
mean?
not
Like,
ask.
so it's
No.
like, you're a beautiful chick, so I get it. So that's like, but sometimes people don't always want those things. So he
Yeah.
was full on like, you're like my girlfriend.
Kind of, but like he would say that we are not dating.
Okay.
He's like, we are not
His
dating.
commitment issue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I found
You're
out
like,
some
there's a lot
things
of other
later. There's
issues.
a lot of things in the story. So basically what happened was that he was not this heir. He was just a club promoter at like like associated to a really good hospitality group in Miami. So they were always doing really crazy fun things.
Okay.
He did make good money, but he wasn't an heir. Like that was like a lie. And I
Okay.
think that he just lied to me to like get my attention in the beginning. Not that I really even cared, but
But something in your head went like ding that you
yeah,
were like, hey, if you're gonna use me, I'm gonna use this situation.
of course. I mean,
So at this point, now you kind of get the idea of somewhat, and not in having any idea, but like the sugar baby aspect
there
of
was
like,
a
or like, you know
transaction.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like at that thing, you're just like, I can get what I want, and I don't have to like you, have feelings or anything like that, and you're
I
still
was
getting
attracted
whatever.
though.
Okay.
I fully was attracted to this guy. I liked him so much. But he was very stoic in just like the way that he handled himself and he was very no bullshit. So he would say like, "Oh, you're a gorgeous girl. Like you're a pretty girl. You're my company, so in exchange like I will give you these experiences and pay your rent." And that's it. Like it's a transaction. Like you come with me when I want you to come to places and then in exchange, he was just very cold like that. He was like, "This is how the world works."
And you liked it as far as like just for what it was transactionally, or did you start to develop feelings for this
I
person?
immediately just had feelings for him, and
So
then
you weren't
he
looking outside for
no.
anything else because you were being fulfilled.
Yeah, and then he just went ahead and just go and like gave me all of these like benefits per se, like it's just his job. Like he gave me these
Okay.
benefits because for him in
Your
his world,
401k plan.
exactly. He just did that
So
because
describe some of your benefits. Like let's talk
yeah,
about how, because it does sound very well, obviously it's transactional in whatever case,
yeah,
but as far as like job wise. So like break it down in like layman terms for like people out there
yeah,
trying to
of
get to
course.
like what are these incentives that he's dangling over yourself to give you, like where I'm sure at one point you probably stopped working. because you didn't need to like that
I
money?
never stopped working because I was always afraid of, like, not being able to keep him because he was very bipolar
Okay.
in the way that he would just, like, be, like, really warm with me one day, and one day he says that he's sick of me, and it was very toxic in
Mm.
that like, front. I never stopped working, but I did take up a second job being his assistant at some point because he's like, "Hey, like, I already, like, give you all of these things, like, I'll give you also, like, just an extra, like, $100 a day if you just, like, handle a couple things for me.
Mhm.
Nothing too crazy, really easy. I'll just give you $100 every single day." And I was like, "Okay, if I'm broke, $100, like, that's what I make working 8 hours a
Mhm.
day. So I
Yeah,
would
why
love
not?
to." Yeah. So, it kind of got like that, and then after a while, he told me that, like, it just wasn't working anymore. I just wasn't getting what I needed emotionally because I just, like, wanted him to love me, but that he would do these things to, like, punish me over very small things because it
Mm.
was a very toxic relationship where he revoked kissing for, like, a month, and he knew that that was super important to me and, like, it would fuck me up, like, emotionally and mentally, but, like, I just didn't do
How
anything.
long did this whole thing go on?
This was, like, 4.5 months.
Months, okay. Well, I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna say years. I was like, "Thank God this is
No, no,
months."
no, it
Okay.
was months, and it felt like years. It
Okay.
genuinely did
So
feel
at
like
any
years.
point in this what if this time period did you, like, figure out that he was not this error, he was a club promoter, he was, like, being a facade of
Yeah,
what it was, not only, like, the emotional thing that you were lacking because he wasn't offering it, but
right.
he also was putting up this front that was really not him at all.
Yeah, so almost he just kinda told me within the first week because he already got the vibe that, like, I just didn't care, and he picked up on the fact that, like, I was actually, like, attracted to him. Like, I really liked him, like
So y'all were fucking.
yeah.
Were y'all bringing other people into the relationship at this time or at any time?
No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure that he was, like, seeing other
But
women and
not with
stuff
each other?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, and for me, like, I thought it was exclusive and all of that stuff, but he was a different
So
story.
this is the reasoning, kind of the setting the tone of like what made you become this sugar baby, like
He
such
introduces me to
scenario of like
someone.
something that kind of like where you see how you're getting played.
Yeah,
You got feelings for something, but you're also liking something
yeah,
because it becomes addicting, the lifestyle.
yeah,
And even though if you're paying for it or provided for it or whatever it is, once it's like once you get that good champagne, you don't want to go back to the cheap shit.
exactly.
So it's like, how do you maintain it? How do you, whatever. So what happens that it's like it's he's saying it's not working or it's not working for
Yeah.
you, like, what makes the tone where that you're it's the next step of where this breaks out?
So I go ahead and I tell him, like, I just, like, can't, like, continue, like, this relationship anymore because I have to put me first. But he even though it almost seems like he hates me, like, he doesn't give a shit about me, he says, "Well,
But
how are
isn't that
you?"
the game,
That
though?
is the game, but he
Because
does care.
that's the thing is, like, I think also too, it's like I don't know how old was he?
He was 10 years my senior, so
So
he
it's
was
like and
28 when I
it's
was
just
18.
men, I think, in general, is
Yeah.
it's the control of, like it's like cat and mouse.
Yes, exactly.
So you're very young and impressionable.
Yeah.
You're being, introduced to something, whatever, and he's seeing the sparkle in your eye of you looking at him from more from the beginning to like now you're like in love.
Yeah, he was my god, and he
Yeah,
loved that, and
yeah.
he loved that so much. But, he understood that, like, I was, like, slipping away from his control a bit. And he was like, "Do you still need help with your rent?" Because at this point, I was getting, sexually harassed by my boss, and I had to find another job, but I was worried because I had very limited work experience. I'm 18. Yes, like, I'm in college, and I'm a junior in college at 18 and all of this stuff, but people are just not gonna hire me based off of the fact that I'm a woman and the fact, that I'm 18 years old because my mental capabilities will always be overlooked. It's just, like, something that will happen in corporate America. People don't take you seriously until you make them take you seriously.
Mhm.
So he understood that I was getting sexually harassed and I was trying to look for other jobs, but I would have to take a step down from pay and like I probably wouldn't be able to make my rent. He did have a soft spot for me, so he was like, "How about this? I'm going to walk away from taking care of you, but I'm going to introduce someone in your life that will take care of you. And it's not what you think. You don't have to do anything. It is a girl that's in a very special circumstance, and if you help her, she'll help you." So I was like, "Okay, let's see
Like,
where this
so what's
goes."
the special circumstance?
So this woman, she is the inspiration of my character. My character is basically a parody of her
Okay.
in all respect, like all perfect respect, because it's just she was very comical in her own way. She didn't like mean it. So I just made her persona like a satire. She is she used to tell people she was Russian, but she's actually Ukrainian because she just figured Americans were stupid, like too stupid before the war to like understand the difference.
Mhm.
And she was a sugar baby. She
Mhm.
was 100% a sugar baby. And she was in a relationship with a very wealthy man in Florida. but he wanted her to live with him, and she didn't have friends or family in Miami, but she told him that she couldn't stay with him because she was staying with a cousin, and her family would be much more comfortable if she stayed with a cousin. So I had to play the role of this cousin,
Okay.
and she would stay with me in my tiny one-bedroom apartment, literally sharing a bed. And this woman didn't have any cash, but she had his credit card. So she couldn't pay my rent, but she would give me literally everything I needed so I could make rent. She would get groceries, cosmetics, literally everything off of his card, as long as she's not paying fit for a physical hotel room so he can track her down.
Mm.
Then she would be happy because for a couple of months I'd be buying her time so she could work up the courage to move in with this guy. And that was the relationship. But she spoke very limited English. Um, and she was also very cold in the way that she kind of, like, treated me because she understood that I was gonna be, like, a very temporary person in her life. But after a while, and she was 32 and I was 18, so she also saw me as, like, this, like, kid,
Mhm.
that she was like, "Ah, whatever,
Did
doesn't
you
give."
try to have any kind of relationship with her?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely tried for a bit, and then I noticed that she started to warm up to me when she just, like, saw me making a lot of mistakes
Mm.
with dating and dating older guys in general, because I already had the taste in my mouth of dating older men. Like, I like the authority, I like the power, I like the fact that they were usually, like, more financially secure. It was attractive. Like, it was, like, the whole, like, boss secretary dynamic where you like this guy that, like, takes charge and, like, makes you feel comfortable enough to shut your brain off for a second. I think
Mhm.
women flourish when they feel like they're being provided for.
I think that women can well, depending on the situations,
Yeah.
because you let down your masculine and you can be allowed to be in your feminine, where
Soft.
you
Yeah.
feel like you are taken care of,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
So, she kind of just, like, saw me, like, paying for my own Ubers to dates and coming back and, like, crying because I was
So she was
asked.
like your mentor of
Yeah,
like you're in between, you're coming from this sugar baby situation. She's in this other whole situation
yeah.
that you're kind of like navigating, but you're kind of seeing. Is she telling you about what her situation is, or are you just knowing that she's paying for his things with a cart?
So she,
Because are you getting any insight for the sugar baby
yeah,
world from
yes.
her? So is that's the whole is like the knowledge is power.
Yeah. So, not only would she give me advice on how to deal with men, but also advice, like, on, like, just, like, being, like, a sugar baby, even though I was like, "I'm not a sugar baby." She was like, "But the arrangement that you're looking for, like, this rich boyfriend that'll take care of you is not that far off.
Mm.
So open your mind a little bit because we're saying sugar baby, sugar daddy, whatever, but, like, it's not like it doesn't have to be this old decrepit man who, like, is, like, you're not, like, an escort. Like, it could be a relationship, but it's a relationship where the transactional bounds are, like, set in place, and, like, these are the expectations, and anything it's better than, like, a normal relationship because at least there's no bullshit.
Mm.
You're honest. I want this, you want this. Meet me in the middle. If the transaction is broken, well, then we go our separate
But
ways.
don't you feel as though the lines are blurred from the escort to a sugar baby? It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. It, like,
It's
depends.
transactional.
Yeah,
It's not whatever. Obviously, it's in each situation, it's a choice.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's the thing is like why, sex work is what it is. It's
yeah.
because we're adults and we're wanting to choose to say, call it what you want.
Right.
But in a sense, it's still transactional, which and therefore makes it a sex act.
Of course.
Yeah,
Which is always why I found it really interesting how it's so stigmatized. Just because it's like, okay, like, maybe we were a little bit more upfront with the fact that we don't want to end up with some guy that's broken living in his mom's basement and now all of a sudden we're the problem. And it's always the broke guys that have a lot of shit to say, like, oh, she just wants you for your money. It's like, babe, look at your bank account. Like, I don't want you for your money. Keep your 2 cents. Like, it
for
looks like
sure.
you need it more than I do.
I think it's perspective, and I think in a lot of people in certain things is because, when we're taught at a young age, it's this fairy tale situation that
Right.
someone's gonna come and save you on this white horse thing, whatever, and that's not reality,
Yeah.
where it's like, I think the perception of what people think do and then you will go into this whole other era of, like, where women are just want equal rights and those things like that, so then it's like, what do equal rights mean? Is it
Yes.
just pay? Is it finances? And then it became like whose dick is bigger
Hmm.
situation of like, who's going to be more alpha being female or masculine, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then now it's like the regression of like, why shouldn't a woman
Be taken care
be
of.
taken care of and the levels of what that means for you? So
Yeah.
for you, if it means the status of having somebody having his shit together, making you feel secure that you can navigate your life and just have a backboard or a sounding board to what you need, then
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
And that's why for me, I've always been equal opportunity. Like for me, it's like like to each his own. Whatever you do that doesn't hurt me, then do whatever you want to do. As far until you start affecting other people's lives is when I feel like then it's like something questionable. Then
Yeah.
decide what you want to do. But I feel like Good for you,
Yeah.
you know, and that's why I think that one reason seeing your page and, like, not knowing anything about your backstory or anything like that, but is that you have such a confidence about you, which a lot of women and again, you find your happy medium in between and maybe a sugar baby situation, but in relationships and how you navigate through relationships is you should be able to say you wanna be taken care of. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be like, if you being in a situation where everything's equal, whatever, that's your roommate situation was any situation that's any different
Yeah.
than if you're not, you know what I mean, contributing on whatever equal means for you, and each relationship is different.
Yeah.
So, navigating from you not really dating a lot from in your past, being, like, young because you started this when you're 18,
Yeah.
you know, so you have no, like, real
No
experience to
experience.
really judge off. Now you have this 30-something-year-old woman who she's hardcore.
Yeah.
She's telling you she's a little bit cold, but she's obviously loving it a little bit because she's seeing you and being endearing to you and telling you the game and kinda stepping those things. Where did you take that knowledge after she left, and how long did she stay with you until you progressed to your next
She stayed
situation?
with me for 3 to 4 months, and in
Do
that
you still
time,
keep in contact with her to this day?
we have each other on social media, so it's, like, very casual and very light and sparse, but
Does she know
she's
that your character is
yes.
based off of her?
Yeah, I told her when I ran into her in Carbone in Miami, she was with her sugar daddy that at this point they're married.
Okay.
And she lives a very great, wonderful life, and she's gotten everything that she's ever wanted. So I told her in Carbone, and I was like, "Do you?" She's like, "You're doing the whole like Russian sugar baby thing. It's doing so well. Like, congratulations. You've always like
I
wanted
love that.
to do personality things
Yeah.
on the internet." And I was like, "But are like you're aware that that's based off of you, right? Like literally." And then she goes, "I had an inkling, but I like." In
Yeah.
her own words, she was like, "I had an inkling, but I wasn't sure. But I'm
Wasn't gonna toot my own horn,
yeah."
but
She was like,
thanks, sweetie,
I'm glad it's
but
working for
thanks.
you,
Yeah,
you
for
know."
sure.
Um,
That's
s
awesome to,
s
like, give kinda like a keep on going, you
always
know?
credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's like, "It's hilarious. My friends love your content, so it's great."
Yeah.
And it's true. And I was like, I'm just, regurgitating all of the advice that you gave me, but like in a funnier way, so it's more palatable. It's
Mhm.
digestible for the modern woman who
Yeah.
doesn't know that what she's seeking is this type of relationship or be like this type of lifestyle, right? So I would say that when she eventually did leave, it was because my mother came to visit me, and I just couldn't explain why I was, like, literally sharing a bed with, like, this, like, random woman who did not
So
have a
you're
king
sharing a
bed.
bed with her too?
Yeah, like, I didn't
Oh,
have an extra, like, bed
okay.
or anything. I had a king bed, so we
Okay.
would just, like
Did y'all snuggle? Who was a little spoon? Who was a big spoon?
no, we actually did not snuggle. She would keep to her side, I would keep to my side, but it was so interesting considering that you don't know this person, and you're just, like, sharing absolutely everything, and I
So it's
had
like a hostel, but different, but
yeah,
but it's yours.
yeah, exactly. It's just my apartment I can't afford, so, um
But it was
and
yours.
yes, and when she did leave, I started, like, dating, like, this much older Arab guy, and he was, like, taking care of me and doing all of this stuff, but then I
So
left
your
that.
mom came and then you couldn't explain, so
I can't
she
explain.
had to, like,
My mother
part
was
ways.
like, "If you need help, like, I'm not gonna take away your freedom, like, you can just, like, always come home and, like, ask for help, but, like, I don't want you, like, having to, sacrifice things like privacy or, like, even safety because you don't even know these people."
So what did you tell her that she would? Because you couldn't say like, "Hey, this is my mentor for being a sugar mom,
No,
a baby," and
I just said that she was a family member of the ex,
oh,
and
okay, okay.
yeah, and, she wasn't, she was just a friend, but my mother was like, "Hey, like, just, like, you can't do this, like, I would appreciate it if you, like, got her out," and I spoke to her, and I was like, "Are you okay with leaving?" And she was like, "Honestly, like, this is just the time that I needed to, like, realize that, like, it's time to, like, move in with this
So
guy,"
was
like
that the guy that she's actually married to
yeah.
now? Okay,
Yeah, it was.
nice.
So it did work out,
Okay,
right? But she was just, like, really anxious over the fact of, like, sharing a space with this man,
yeah,
like, he's inescapable.
naturally,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at that point, she was like, "Okay, fine, like, I'm just gonna move in with him," and she does that. And, my life progresses, and, like, this is right before the quarantine. I was dating this, like, Arab guy who was a club owner in Miami, 17 years my senior. But it just I
I just think of
emotionally
like old wrinkly balls, but
he looked very young.
he looked
He
very young.
was, Algerian, they age well. But it just, like I am young, like, I, like, wanted to have, like, a more passionate relationship, and he was just, like, more, like, looking for, like, stability and, like, a life, but, like, it just, like, wasn't the passion wasn't there, and I was, like, seeking it, and he wasn't meeting me in the middle, so I had to tell him, like, "I like you, but you don't fulfill me, like, as far as,
Was
like,
he
the
paying
passion."
all of your things at this time?
At this time, like, I was just, like, living with him.
Okay,
So, he was paying for everything.
yeah,
He's Arab, but, they apologize with
yeah.
bags and stuff, so it's not bad. But
I'm like, what does your closet look like?
she's very beautiful. Can't
Like, you should have
complain.
security in your closet, girl. Let's have champagne night in your closet.
Absolutely. Um, so at this point, it's like still like the quarantine, like everyone switched to online dating, which I'm kind of like conflicted about, but I got in and my first match was this guy who was 11 years my senior. He lived a fun young lifestyle, like he liked to travel and ski and like do all this fun
Now, do
stuff.
you see all this because of pictures or because, like, they're telling you that they like these things? Like,
Um,
how do you know and, like,
a,
how do you,
a
like, scout this
combination,
out?
a combination. So like you take a look at their profiles, like you look at their watches, like their car, maybe like their surroundings, the type of finishes their house has,
Okay.
in those pictures. Where are they vacationing? Like I can recognize certain places. Like I'm like, oh, he's in St. Bart's. Like, okay, I'll be like, oh my god, when did you go to St. Bart's? If he says he went during high season, he's not broke.
Okay.
So, oh, like Aspen, like Aspen's not like a cheap place to just
So
go
you're doing
fuck
your
around.
homework.
I mean, it's like for me, it was like very familiar with traveling at this point. So I was just like, well, if he likes to kind of like, rich people go to the same places around the same time, just like a flock of birds.
Yeah.
And if they're doing that, well, then
They're in the
they can afford the rates to be
or
there.
they're scamming to be
Or
there.
they're scamming. That's a good point. But I mean, at that point, you just have to like discern that in person. You can't. Pictures
True.
will only get you so far.
True.
And it wasn't like he was like obviously flexing. It was just like, hey, like these are the times that I took pictures of
Yeah.
myself because he's just a boy.
Yeah.
And I had like we really hit it off, and I was really attracted to him physically and all of this stuff, and we just started dating. And the first week that we were dating, I mean, I immediately told him off the bat, like I'm kind of crazy. Like when I really like someone, I'll just tell them like I'm down to like make this exclusive. Like if you don't want this to be exclusive, like you will kind of want to throw up and like regret your life because like like what I could get. But I'm saying like I'm okay with you.
But don't
And
men like that, I feel like? I feel like that's more of a turn on than a fucking turn off.
it depends if they're cucks. I mean, I never was really into the cucks, though. I was into men that's like, "No, you're mine." Like,
Okay.
I'm not sharing. So he became
So
my
do you
boyfriend.
go in being to the sense of, like, that you, like, you're at this point,
Yeah,
obviously, with your content, you know what I mean, the sugar baby,
this
like,
was
whole thing.
before.
So it's like but when at those times when you're, like, vetting those things, do
Yeah.
you go in being, like, that you want to them to pay your lifestyle, that you want to do, or they're just already just giving you that because of the type of men that you're going after at this point?
Um, it's interesting. It's more like when you become this like rich guy's girl and like you merge lifestyles with him, you are merging lifestyles. So you're gonna be doing the same things that he's doing. And it's like, what do you mean? Like I'm gonna pay? Like, no, I'm not. Like you're the one that wants to go to Aspen. Like I could just fuck off and go to work. Like, you know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's I make it
See,
like
that's
clear.
my problem. I have a life, and I can't just be attached to people because I'm like, "Well, I have to work," or "I have this," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I can't just go on your plane, sorry."
For me, I was just like, I'm
But at that age too, it's like you're young and you're not
right.
even of age to drink. So
Yeah.
at this point, you're getting to do all the things that a 21-year-old, let alone a 30-year-old at that
Yeah.
point too, are like you're being exposed to a lot of like heightened things.
Yes.
So it becomes very desensitized to you because it's not a big thing anymore. It's every day.
I
It's
think
like changing your underwear.
yes. I think it was Eddie Murphy that said this, and I feel like this is such a brilliant line that has like the most brilliant thing I've ever heard in the history of comedy. He goes, men can't go back sexually. If you lick their booty hole once and they liked it, they're gonna want every single girl after that to do the same. Women can't go back in lifestyle. If she dated a guy with a car,
Mhm.
she's gonna want a guy with a better car, or at least a car, but she's never gonna go back to some guy that takes a bus.
Facts.
So it was kind of like that where I like
But how
every
many booty holes have you looked?
just one.
It's just the one.
This wasn't my favorite thing to do, honestly. Just wasn't
You're like,
clean enough.
"Oh, you're bringing back the" You're like, "Oh, God." You're like
Just one, and like I didn't have a good time, and I made that known. I was like, I don't know why, but it doesn't smell
"Well,
nice.
not yes." That was after the club, I'm sure. That was Miami, 11 days you're talking about?
Yeah, it was just like a little too sweaty for me. Ugh, memories. You re-traumatizing me.
Here we
God
go.
damn it.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right.
You know, it makes it not go away, it makes it just easier and manageable. I'm good. I don't chase it, I just swallow it. I'm a
Strong
pro.
bitch. Holy
That's right.
crap.
You know, call me Miss Texas for no reason. Go big or go home, and I haven't
Everything's
gone home
bigger in
yet.
Texas.
That's right. So, you hit it off really well with him. Y'all started being in a
Yeah.
relationship. How long did it fizzle out to the point where it's like, and at this point, once you get what you're quote unquote looking for,
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're looking for, but you're in this situation, you're merged lives, you're doing this like nice lifestyle, like, is it the not being fulfilled part is like, is it romantically? Is it because do you want a family at one point? Do you just want your lifestyle provided for? At what ends does it become where it's like just meeting like an ends to a mean? And when does it become where it's like, okay, now I have to like figure out what I'm doing? And obviously what your content, everything you provide isn't completely your life
Yeah.
1000% the same way Alexis Texas isn't who I am
All the time.
100% of the
Yeah.
time. It's, it is a persona, but it is a big part of who I am. But it's my other character that I get to play and have fucking sex with everybody that I want to.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good way to put it. Um, so to so this guy, like his family had a lot of money too, and like they had like a really like nice, like old money looking house in Miami. And I always felt kind of inadequate because I know that I am capable of making my own money and all of this stuff. But, like, instead of fighting against the patriarchy, I kinda, like, make it work for myself, and then I blossom in my own way, because there's a million and one ways for people to make money without having to go to a 9 to 5.
For sure.
I mean, if you really love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like you're doing a 9 to 5, but you're still putting in the hours, but I'm not gonna go sit in a cubicle and waste this beautiful face on just, like, customer service calls. It's not gonna happen.
As you shouldn't. And I think that that's also another that goes back to like homage to yourself is like seeing someone like yourself so young. But, and I didn't even know your age until you came in here,
Yeah.
but you have a young appearance and like you could tell from your content that you are young. But it takes to the point with even with that being said, is that you you're very confident and you know what most 30 something year olds have like got to know nowadays, then like, so it's like you're starting the game a little bit like before
Much
everybody,
younger.
you know what I mean? So,
And I could
which is
legally.
what I feel is as a woman, and I love, I can't necessarily say that I'm a feminist because I have certain situations where I feel like I don't think feminist is a completely the right word of what that gives to us. Like I don't like I'm not a man hater or any of those
Mhm.
things, but I'm pro women.
Yeah.
So for me is like when I see young women like yourself having such a strong head on your shoulders, and obviously you've been through what you've been through at 18, and that's really, it's hard to figure that out by yourself, and you aren't here today without having go through struggles. But what I love is hearing your story of like how you've evolved into like who and why you are so confident and can make great decisions at your life at this point than maybe at 18 and 19 you didn't know. So it's like giving the knowledge to the viewers of like what that looks like if this is what you want to do, like what like how this you can go about and feel confident about it and
Mhm.
not have a stigma behind it, not have shame behind it is because it is your choice. It is your right to whatever. And you're very knowledgeable that you could do a 9 to 5, but if you don't want to, then why? And the thing is that nowadays is that the world is set up so that we don't have to be succumbed and subject to being chained to somebody else's business, that we
Right.
can create our own lanes.
Mhm.
And that's why I think it's fascinating with your story is because you built that off of a sugar baby context
Mhm.
of, and that's not even a scratch of who you are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I personally think that shame like that was just like constructed by men to like keep women much lower and beneath them. But if you don't fall victim to feeling shameful for the things that you had to do in your life to be where you are now, it doesn't fucking matter, you know? And who gives a fuck?
I don't think shame is I can't say it's this sexualize it as far as men. I think women do it to women as well. Like,
Yeah.
even like watching some of yourself on your stories, you still post the real time of like the women shaming you because let me
Yeah.
show you what not to do. Like how do you deal with the negative parts of those things?
I mean, I know how good my life is. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I would be fucking slitting my wrist too if like I was so miserable I had to project that onto a woman who is literally making people laugh on the side of the street.
So,
Life is
has
not
there
that
ever been in a
serious.
situation that in a negative context where it's triggered you because of something they've said? Or
No.
have you always been where it's been like it just hasn't bothered you and it rolls off your back? Because I'm from, the digital world of things that's very later on in my career, but
Yeah.
it's also then there's forums, there's all these things that people comment badly about you. And me, I never fed into it because I was like, they don't even know who I am. They just
Exactly.
see an image. So it never bothered me. But it would bother me in person and when I would do certain things when people would say things because that's not who I am.
Mhm.
But for me, I had to have reflection of knowing that don't no one will ever know who I am unless you're in my like in my bubble or my circle or whatever it
Right.
is. So why care about those things? Being so young, is there anything that's ever like made you to a point and like, I think it's the cross between the two. It's like, I think in my 20s, I was like, fuck it. I don't give a fuck what anybody cares about me. But at some level, there is emotion behind who you are and you are a person and you have
Right.
feelings. Has anything ever made you feel triggered by what somebody said because of what you're either advertising or your message behind it?
I mean, never quite, but I definitely do remember a time where, I was pregnant and I had a miscarriage. I announced my miscarriage, and then I had a wave of men say that, I mean, look at your content, like
Mm,
God did that child a favor, like you would be an inadequate mother, and like your child like deserved to die. And that was like the only thing that got to me because things about me don't get to me, but is my unborn child like
yeah.
doesn't need to be in your
It's
mouth
heartless
and
for sure.
completely heartless. I was getting like videos sent to me of men um like cheering in bars that and
Mm,
like going, "Woo,"
it's
that I
unfortunate.
had
Yeah.
lost my child. And it wasn't that like it got to me where it made me question my self-worth or my capability to be a good mother to another human being because I'm like, I know I can. Um, but it was more like I just couldn't believe that people could be so cruel.
Inhumane.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And being, a sex worker, like, and being in the business for over 20 years, it's like you see on certain levels and nothing. I mean, there's been things, but I don't let it roll off my back, whatever. Like I said, like there's been small things that I've had to work on and seeing things people like in person say things,
Yeah,
but it's more a reflection on them than you.
absolutely.
But there's just things like words hurt. And so it's
Yeah,
like we are people. It doesn't matter what you say, it's like, we still have feelings. And it's unfortunate that people think like that and even kind of like go to like a level of that. It's like their own insecurities. So
right.
it's for me, it's like I go back to the motto of to each his own. If it doesn't affect you, then why are you worried about
Why are you
it?
so worried
Why do you
about it?
care
Why do you think I care?
why do you
Like
care what's going on in my uterus and my pussy? Nothing. Like why? Why?
Mhm.
So where did you go from there?
Yeah, I just started like walking around his house and I was like, you know who I feel like right now? I feel like that woman who was my roommate a year ago. At this point, I was 19. I feel like a Russian sugar baby. I just whipped out my camera because TikTok, it was during the pandemic, so people were like on TikTok and I had been consuming a lot of that content, but I wasn't really posting. And I just like whip out my phone and I don't know where I pull this out of my ass. Like I just start off like going, my life is so difficult when my sugar daddy is at work. I have to walk the dogs and start complaining about like these very like meager tasks when I should just be like at the spa. And then I say like, if men ask you what you study in school, you have to say STEM because STEM to me means sugar baby training, education of money. We love women in STEM. And just, like, bullshit jokes like that. I think one of my favorite ones that I said was, "If man asks you what sign you're the most compatible with, you have to say dollar sign."
Mm.
Um, and I just posted it, and it was, like, really silly, it, like, didn't really mean anything, and I was just, like,
But I'm
walking
sure it
around
got a lot of views.
25 million kind of overnight, and at this point, I went from having no followers to I jumped to, like, 300,000 off of one video, and I just kept posting and
Did your
pulling.
sugar daddy at this point know that what was happening?
So at this point, like I told him, like, look at all of this attention. And he was like a finance guy, like managed a lot of people's money. And he was like, we just got to get you monetized. Immediately right off the bat, he was like, stop thinking about like you're on a high that people are appreciating like these jokes that you like came up with. Think about how you can make money from this
Mm,
and then just keep going. Cause the second he saw a business opportunity, he was like, I don't give a fuck what you post, fucking make the money.
mhm.
Because I went from being a financial burden to all of a sudden, like, we
Now
were
you have
just
your own show.
getting really cool
Yeah.
opportunities and
Did he want some of
experiences.
it?
Yeah, of course, not money per se. He towards a specific point in my relationship, he was, like, balls deep into my career, and he knew how much money I was pulling in, so he would make me, like, pay for certain things, which I would have been cool with, but, like, I'm not paying half the mortgage of the house that you refuse to put in my name. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I'm not doing that, because at the end of the day, when you want me out, I paid half of the fucking mortgage, and I leave with nothing. Like, it's
Yeah.
not happening. Like, logical things like that. But I was like, "Yeah, of course I'll get dinner every so often."
Yeah.
Like, it's as soon as it as soon as, like, I could, like, I genuinely love someone, like, it's part of me to, like,
Your
I
love language
yeah,
of,
like,
like,
give
you
you
wanna
a
give, yeah.
gift, and it's not like the transaction's, like, only, like, "I'm your girlfriend, you give me this." But, like, I do want this man that provides, and in exchange, like, if you want a woman that stays at home more and, like, cleans more and cooks more, like, I need you to, like, pull in more money if you want those things from me. Because if not, I'm still in survival mode.
Would you say that you were in love with him?
Yes, I was. I thought honestly that I was gonna marry him. And my career just kept taking off. Like after 1 month, I had 1,000,000 followers, 2 months, 2,000,000, 3 months, 3,000,000.
How is that feeling of knowing that, like, you basically did it, not knowing if anybody would even listen to you, having 0 followers, and now you're, like, getting this money that you've never had before,
Yeah.
that you're doing all this stuff, like, how did that make you feel inside?
Well, I mean, it was really addicting in the beginning because it was an instant dopamine rush.
Mm,
I'm a little bit like on the spectrum in
okay.
all honesty, so I don't really like get dopamine from traditional ways. Like it's
Yeah.
very hard for me to even complete like basic tasks because my ADD is so hard. And certain things like that, but like it was such easy work for yeah, I put in time to like organize videos and come up with jokes, but like filming on TikTok was relatively seamless. Posting and then having millions of people just like
It's addicting.
praise you.
Yeah.
Of course, there's, like, an
It's just
element
like,
to
where do
that
you
that
want feedback? Where do you want you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like,
it
what can I do more next?
I
Yeah.
never had a lot of friends or anything growing up, and I got heavily bullied because I had, like, a lot of issues socializing, like, I wasn't someone that was, like, very, like, okay with making eye contact, like, that's stuff that I had to work on later. Um, that's why I mentioned, like, I do have autistic traits, was diagnosed with autism because there's not enough of it, but they're like, "You definitely do have autistic traits, but it's probably because you have, like, severe ADD, so
Mm,
you do end up on the spectrum somehow." So that was really hard to me because my parents that are immigrants, they just like reject the
mm,
idea of neurodivergence.
yeah.
They're just like, you're just like a
They don't
smart
know.
cookie and like maybe you're not like the best at being social, but that's something that I had to learn later on because it's all masking.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like the first time in my life that I felt like popular and like cool and like it almost makes me emotional because I always tried to like be out there and outgoing and then people would be like, she's a little weird or like, I don't get it. Like she's trying to be funny, but it's not hitting and it's like, yeah, like, I'm sorry I was trying my best, like, I didn't understand my brain, but, like, now I'm more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So, at the time, it was intoxicating, but then I also had this, like I was projecting, like, this image, this, message of self-confidence and, like, knowing that you're expensive, but I still had some little the inner child, like, the little girl inside that was looking in the mirror and not recognizing what was happening around me. It was like imposter syndrome.
You had it, but you didn't feel it.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm sure, like, you can kind of relate to this where you're Alexis Texas to a lot of people, but inside you're also you and a person that a lot of people don't know, and, like, maybe they claim, like, to know your personality based off of what you portray online, but they don't understand that, like, a certain aspect of that is a character. It's a
Mhm.
caricature that you portray because that's just business, like,
Mhm.
that's Hollywood, baby, like, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
So it was imposter syndrome where I was like, "Do I really, like, deserve this?" Like, people are, like, saying, "Oh my god, my sugar baby queen," but, like, am I is that me? "Oh my god, like, you're so funny and so this and whatever," but I'm doing this all in an accent that does not pertain, like, to, like, my actual nationality, like, I'm Hispanic. Um and it was like, wow, like, people the second that I started portraying a character that wasn't myself, I was liked, so maybe I am the problem. So that was, like, another thing that I had to battle with in the beginning, where I'm like, "Am I worthy of this attention, or was this simply because I decided to be someone else that I was finally accepted?"
Mm. For sure. I think that thank you for sharing that, and I feel like it is, when you become a content creator and depending on what kind of content you create, obviously mine was like an adult performer, and like, you don't wanna go by your legal name for other reasons and like whatever reasons why you like made your characters. At a certain level, there is alignment, but there is also too is you do deserve it, and it is beneath all of that character or not is you. I think that with myself, I can speak for is it was being called something else, and Alexis is still my real name,
Mm,
so it wasn't far from who I was, but
right.
obviously Texas isn't my last name. But it's like, it was easier to be who I really was and I stopped trying to be something I wasn't.
Okay.
I am this sexual person, so I feel like with you is not that you were, like, made to be a sugar baby, but you were made to make some light of a situation and make people feel good about it. You're
Mhm.
positive. You bring a light up to a situation that doesn't have to be a dark thing. It could be a positive thing that people put such negativity around it,
Right.
where it's like, and those things is when we get older, is like sometimes it's like people are like, oh, you're not good enough like you are for the right person and the right audience, the right people
Absolutely.
that kind of like, look at the pop of like went from 0 to a million to 13, million is like there's more people that relate to you than you realize, and that's why it's like what is a beautiful thing is when you are so unique is having the courage to go in these lanes and like really identifying and speaking your truth is because more people can relate to them themselves and speak their own. So it's like you're an advocate for just being you. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like you didn't think that you belong, but you belong in so many other spaces. You know what I mean? So it's like you it's just you're funny
Thank
and
you.
you belong, and that's the thing is it sucks to feel like you don't belong because there's so many things like even if this like I said, like I think sugar babiness of like your content is a scratch of who you are, not when you're very smart and intelligent and knowing what you could get in those things. And there's a lot of telling things in between that than just showing like just being a sugar baby.
That was so beautifully said. You're so good at speaking.
Yes. For me, it's more the authenticity of like, for me, is I like this to be a safe space for people to
Right.
be like, for your fans to get to know a different side of you and like ask the questions and make, feel where you're vulnerable enough to share that because, you are in such a, like your content is such, if it's a sugar baby thing and you're giving advice and it's great advice, but some people may think that maybe you're just always silly, but there is a softer side to you. There is
Right.
other things that like define of how you got here to make yourself so funny and relatable to everybody. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. So I like to tap into those things.
Well, thanks.
So let's talk about on the flip side of like we talked about your journey and like
Yeah.
how you kind of like navigate those things. How do you feel about like nowadays, like there's shows like Love is Blind and they're on
Right.
these pod things and like, you coming from a not necessarily a different or bias, but a different perspective of love and having people in your life. What do you think and what is your perspective on these kind of shows?
I would love to talk about Love is Blind for a second. Holy shit. Have you been keeping up with
I
it?
I am definitely hate that the reunion is, like, in a week. I don't like that, but, we're here, and I was like I saw, something before I came here, and it was like, "Netflix, I will pay you $20 right now. You can send it in the mail, you can send it in my email, but then you should have it now and not on the 13th." But
Oh my god, yes. Oh, so I actually do have a bone to pick with things like Love is Blind because yet they're still putting conventionally attractive people. Like no one that on that show was ugly. Like you
there's been some seasons that
well, like
yeah,
yeah, but like there's like it's like
I'm like, "It depends on who you ask."
they're still like able-bodied people though at the end of the day. Like I'm like, if Love is Blind, oh, put a paraplegic in it. Let's see if Love is really blind. Let's see. Huh?
This is true. This is true.
Love is blind.
But I
Like
also think that there's also, like, probably, waivers, stigma, standards, and requirements in the regular life, right? That you would
right.
be like what you would want because that they're basing them off of a personality or some kind of computing some kind of science of something, of how they're pairing them together. Because I feel like a lot of the people what I think is and I've been a fan since the beginning, is that it shows taking the, surface level things of what we would think is love and, like, those
Right.
things and, like, knowing the internal part of who a person is to a point.
Mhm.
And then now you have outside, things, and then you have people who just like, when we fall in love with potential, like, maybe the people that are casting the people, they think, like, what they could be because of by the answers they're saying. But just because I'm answering that doesn't mean I will identify with that in real life because maybe I haven't done the work, maybe I haven't gone to counseling, maybe I don't even know about myself, and maybe I don't know what I'm gonna do in real life situations.
Right.
And that's what I think is a problem is why sometimes when they're like, there is a lot of compatibility if you're willing to do the work. But why do a work with a stranger if you don't really have to, unless it's
Of course.
that much of a like
Plus good
sparky
TV.
person. I'm a love person. I'm a romantic person. I mean, I am single. I've done a lot of work. For me, it's like not about being in just a relationship, but the relationship. And so it's like I'd rather wait my time until I find someone that checks off my boxes. If people think that's whatever, then that's a them problem, not a me problem.
Mhm.
But that's the same thing with this is like why I'm hopeful of like, well, what would this experiment? I was like, can they have a sex worker friendly one? Because I want to be a part of the pod. So that
I think you would crush Love is Blind.
but the thing is I would be canceled before it was started because I'm sure I would be, what was it called? And I don't know, like kicked out because I'm a sex. I it was important. No, they're like, because it was funny because this season they did a whole thing where like, oh, you have an OnlyFans. I'm like, why do they make it like it's such a bad thing? Like, yeah, and so what? That means that I'm getting paid. You're welcome.
I will say that my only thing is like I don't think that actual sex work should be so glamorized the way that it is in the media because there's a lot of wide-eyed, bushy-tailed 18-year-olds that have no idea what's going to hit them in the face. And they sign up because they think that they're immediately going to get the life of their dreams. And in reality, they're just being opened up to like the manipulation from X, Y, and Z, like outside sources. I just feel like we could talk about it, but I want people to be aware that you're not everyone is gonna get lucky, and as long as, like, you're aware of the risk because there's a lot of girls that just, like, don't know, like, what, like, maybe
Yeah.
the long-term consequences is of, like, you, like, maybe not going so far in porn. Or maybe, like, you should, like, if you're doing it for a specific reason, like, what is the reason? Like, think about it. I just want always, like, the youth to be super aware of what they do is permanent. If they're okay with that, everything exists off the basis of consent. Go crazy, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
I'm personally not gonna judge you,
for sure.
but I want people to be aware that it's not always roses and gold. Like, it's
For
a lot
sure.
of
I think
hardship.
that that's within any business, and I think that for me, I definitely agree with you, and I think that it's one of those things people have to really take a hard, thing. It's something that it does will not go away. It's
Yeah,
something that will always be there.
yeah,
But I think that it's also, we are in an adult level things where it's like with the social media, with the, so many like just media with phones and cameras and everything, like anything is like outdoable. So it's like one of those things where it's like you
right.
can't really beat it. So it's like you should know.
Yeah.
You should, you know what I mean? So it's like it's
You
um
have interviews
for
with
sure.
sex workers that tell
For
you
sure,
about the
and that's the
horrible
beautiful thing
shit.
is, like, there's good, there's bad and ugly and mainstream and 9 to 5, like you said, were harassed by, some of your bosses
Yeah,
prior to,
literally
and
happened to
it's just
me.
being aware of your surroundings,
Yeah.
being aware of what's right or wrong, what your boundaries are, and, like, being like, just talking about those things, and that's why I think it's such a good thing for people to more that you communicate with it, is the more that it doesn't seem like that's such a bad stigma, like, we should
The
talk up,
more
if you
yeah, the
see
more
something,
we're
say something,
transparent.
speak about it, you know?
Yeah, if we gave people, like, a safe space to open up and, like, just be able to, like, talk about this candidly, the understanding would just go so far, like, women would feel more comfortable with talking about it, like, the fact that people are so uncomfortable with talking about things like sex or
Yes.
whatever, I think is so silly. Like, everyone has sex, like, how are you here? How am I here? Our
So
parents
what's your
left and
favorite
God died.
position?
I actually like missionary.
Missionary
Yeah.
only? So you can give eye contact
I just
that
like
you've worked so hard on?
it's really intimate, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. That I worked really hard on. It's just really intimate and, like, also, like, I'm, like, a fan of my boobs. So,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Just look at
Okay.
these."
Okay. Okay. I
So
like
that's
that.
my personal and it feels better for me. I have something called, a retroverted uterus, so it tilts backwards
Okay.
instead of tilting forward, and for some reason, it just, like it's more pleasant for me. So that's the position that I like.
We
It's,
like the
like,
more
vanilla,
pleasant.
but I like it.
So last thing, what is some advice that you could give to anybody out there that maybe is looking for a sugar baby situation, just a content creator situation, and some life advice that you
Yeah.
could give any of your fans out there watching you?
Yeah, if you wanna go find a rich husband, first, you need to kinda write down all the qualities of a man that would satisfy you. Writing it down is a really good form of making sure that you stay accountable to your own goals and don't stay distracted, because, I hate when people bring up to me and they say, "Oh, so you want a rich man that'll treat you like shit instead of getting a poor one that'll treat you like a queen." I was like, "Who said that you have to sacrifice those things to get
Mm,
what you want?"
good point.
Because I could say that my current partner is doing amazing and he treats me like $1,000,000. Like he is genuinely so in love with me. I'm in love with him, but he just goes the extra mile above and beyond. And financially, I'm comfortable. So it's just like, why do I have to sacrifice? Like, you're just constantly telling me that I have to settle for things that I don't have to settle for shit.
No, you don't.
No, you have to understand your worth, you have to understand your value, and if you, that's why I have, like, qualms with people on, like, the Fresh and Fit podcast, because it's, like, these guys that are preaching, like, "Oh, like, you want a high value man, like, but you're not a high value woman, like, what do you bring to the table?" I bring security. I decorate the table and wash the dishes on the table, and then I step out and go to Pilates class to look good for when you're done with your meeting and talking to guys.
Mhm.
And then I give you emotional security. I'll be the mother of your children. I'm your partner. I'm your best friend. I will do what you need me to do because I will function as a complement to you,
Mhm.
and you will function as a complement to me. It doesn't have to be like this like weird slavery binding
Yeah.
relationship that people paint it to be. It's not like that. I'm just a little bit more traditional with my values, and just because I vocalize it, people were calling me a gold digger and a sugar baby and all this stuff. So why shy away from that instead of I just embraced it? I'm
You
like, oh,
just
you're gonna
know what
call
you
me.
want and you know your worth, and
Here we go. Duh.
amen to that. I love that for you. I appreciate your time. Thank you
I
so
had so
much
much
for
fun.
coming on, and, please let us know where we can follow you, support you.
Yes. My name is Mia Dio. You guys can find me on TikTok as Mia Dio. On Instagram as Mia Dio with two eyes. If you get lost, just Google me. If you see any sketchy articles, I probably did do that. So you guys have fun.
I love it. All right, private talk. Until next time.
All right, bye guys.
This episode is sponsored by Bet Online.